don't deal with this one, then all their points or all of the challenges soon enough will become moot.
We've been trying for a number of years to gain control of the weather, in areas of drought, trying to...
How on earth could you get sulfur tens of kilometers high into the atmosphere?
The kind of thing that would be needed simply to do this is actually quite what they almost call commercial off the shelf. It's something that they could quite easily engineer with no massive leap. So whereas if you ask them to build a cheap supersonic transport or a Mach 6 aircraft, they really don't know how to do it. This could be done with pretty simple modifications of existing business jets can, in a cost-effective way, get materials up to the required altitude.
So how would you feasibly take the sulfates and inject them into the stratosphere? 20 kilometers, are we talking? How high?
20 is a reasonable altitude, and the answer is modified versions of commercial business jets with different engines will do that. We worked with an aerospace firm that did a design study. From their point of view, this was not on the hard end of what companies do.
Very few people that have a probing type of mind and want to dig into a very difficult subject. So instead they choose a dismissive stance, either I don't believe it or, well, could be, but it's not my problem. Well, I'm here to point out that it is your problem if you're being poisoned from the sky. Like a rat.
We've been trying for a number of years.
The question that came to my mind immediately, what is a persistent contrail? Is that based on its length? And sometimes the report says between 20 to 30 miles. Contrails are a difficult phenomenon. We saw that from the previous speaker as well. We don't really know that much about them, at least not in the open debate. So we know they depend on temperature.
We've been trying for a number of years to gain control of the weather, in areas of drought, trying to, development of cloud seeding, doing everything we can to master our elements, to master this planet.
Exhaust aerosols are nuclei, we saw that already, for water to form ice crystal, and they create the visibility of the trail. So that's the ice crystal.
And if you can steer and manipulate this type of radiation, these type of electromagnetic waves, then you can steer and manipulate weather.
There in the natural circumstances. And we can see that, especially over Europe and the United States, these man-made cirrus patterns are seriously...
Whenever you heat a part of the atmosphere, you're controlling the weather in that part of the atmosphere.
Discussed in reports, and usually the discussion goes towards that cirrus is quite negative for climate. These two guys, Whiteleg and Cambridge, of the Stockholm Environmental Institute, state that in general aviation poses a threat to several stakeholders. On a global scale, affecting the whole ecosystem, and regional and local and community and personal scale. So it affects basically everyone on this planet and also all ecosystems. So they say it's quite an important issue and we should deal with it.
This highly toxic rain, period, extremely toxic, and so much so so much metal has built up in our soils here, Kim, that it's actually changed the forest floor pH. That takes a tremendous amount of metal.
When I travel, like for example, I was in Europe last year. I was in the south of France, I was in Switzerland, and I was in England. And in every location, even places I thought it would never be happening, they were spraying the air. There were planes everywhere. Now, some people will say, look, that is a contrail. They're not planes that are meant for just spraying only. But when I've traveled, Dane, in an airplane, I never see trails coming out of the plane. How come that is?
Well, most people at this point don't know what a natural cloud is from an aerosol cloud. They don't know the difference. Because the aerosol clouds or the created clouds are in everything. They're in advertisements. They put them in kids' animated films, literally, Over the Hedge. Some of the Disney films, Cars, they have these trails in the films to try to condition the kids early on so that the
spraying any kind of toxic material into the sky sky, we as the public should definitely be aware of it, for one. Or at the very least, it needs to be known. Really start noticing what's going on and talking to people about it, is that people don't want to talk about it, or more often than don't want to talk about it, are just very dismissive of the subject as if it's non-important. And so the point of this video that I wanted to make is to show that it is important, and you should watch what's going on in your own.
To do something, surely we've got to do something. To do something, surely we've got to do something. To do something, surely we've got to do something.
Mild-mannered research project occurring in Alaska. First off, for the government,
dealing with anything else but climate engineering, you can't separate issues. We can't think in terms of this or that. It's all connected. The more we understand the mosaic, the more clearly we will see the image it presents to us. So geopolitical events are connected to climate engineering, very directly so. And that's why I spend so much time studying those events as well, because they are a part of the picture. You can't see the whole picture unless you have all the pieces to the puzzle. It's imperative.
To spend the kind of money it's spent, to keep this project going for the number of years it's kept it going, there's something here. And they believe there's something here, and there's enough evidence for them to continue to invest that they can develop technologies that can
really poisonous worldview and way of being and way of living in the world, have propagated it unwaveringly through their voice. They have continuously put out and reinforced this message of deceit.
harness this ability. Whether it's to make life better, I don't know. More than likely, it would seem to make sense that this is probably a weaponized experiment. When you consider
it's our task to combat that with the voice of truth. What are we supposed to do? And what I would say, you have to understand the totality of the big picture, the tapestry of all of this information as it pertains to what's going on in the world and how it affects our lives on a day-to-day basis, and then put it into a format that can be readily understood by other individuals, and then share that information with whoever will accept any part of it. That's what there is to do. Don't keep taking in info, but then disseminate it as well. Use our voice and our will.
Funded and invested in this program. Talking about the Air Force, the Navy, the Defense Advanced Research Projects.